The Federation of Galactic States, FGS, was in turmoil. Its once unified voice had faltered after a mysterious attack on the Council's central hub. Hundreds of ambassadors, diplomats, and scientists, key leaders who had helped maintain peace for generations, had perished in the sudden and violent assault. The attack was swift, precise, and left behind only questions. The truth about who or what had caused the devastation was still a mystery. What remained clear was that whoever was behind it had access to technology and tactics far beyond the capabilities of any known species. The FGS was no longer united in purpose, its members now too afraid to trust one another. The Council had splintered. The systems that once communicated freely with each other now found themselves locked in an uneasy silence. Even worse, rumors spread that factions within the Federation were using the chaos as cover for their own ambitions. The stage was set for a galactic power struggle, and without a way to unify, the Federation risked collapsing under its own weight. However, amid this uncertainty, one empire had made its presence known: humanity. The human empire had spread throughout the stars long before the attack on the Council. Where others had hesitated, humanity had carved a path through space, expanding its reach and influence at a pace unmatched by any other species. Though they had been relatively quiet in the politics of the Galactic Federation, their reputation for brutal efficiency in war was well known. And now, with the Federation in disarray, humanity would play its hand. "Captain Carter, the message just came through," Lieutenant Ivan Roberts called out, his voice steady as he glanced up from the comm station. He was a wiry man with sharp features, his eyes always alert, always scanning. Captain Amelia Carter, standing at the command deck of the human warship the Vanguard, turned her head. She had a presence about her, tall, confident, with steel-blue eyes that rarely missed anything. Her dark hair was cropped short, and the uniform she wore was fitted but practical, the insignia of the United Earth Fleet emblazoned on her shoulder. A warrior by choice, she had risen through the ranks by sheer merit, with a mind as sharp as her resolve. "Play it, Roberts," she said. The message, a simple transmission from the Federation's remains, flickered across the bridge. It was a distress call from Atrexia, an outpost at the edge of Federation space, far from the main star routes. The message was brief but urgent. "We are under attack. The enemy is unlike anything we've seen before. They are coming from beyond the known stars. Please, help us." The transmission cut off with an abrupt silence, and the data link buzzed once again, signaling a poor connection. "Unknown species," Carter muttered to herself. "It sounds like a standard distress call, but this one feels different." She looked over at Lieutenant Sarah Trowbridge, her tactical officer. Trowbridge was a veteran of many battles, her calm demeanor a steadying influence on the crew, but even she couldn't hide the hint of concern in her eyes. "Captain, Atrexia is a remote world. If they're reporting an unknown enemy, it could be something catastrophic, or it could be a ploy to draw us into a trap." Carter turned to face her. "Could be. But it's also possible we're about to uncover something bigger than any of us expected. We'll investigate. Plot a course for Atrexia." "Course plotted, Captain," Trowbridge replied, hands flying over the console, adjusting their trajectory. The Vanguard was a formidable ship. Designed for both speed and firepower, its sleek hull gleamed in the light of distant stars, a symbol of humanity's military might. The ship had been in service for over a decade, but with every upgrade it grew more capable, more lethal. Its forward-facing weapons array was capable of shattering shields with ease, while its advanced stealth systems made it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Every detail of its design spoke to one principle: winning. As they accelerated through the vastness of space, Carter's mind wandered. She knew the stakes were high. The Federation, fractured and broken, would never survive without unity, and humanity had never been one to back away from taking charge. They had always been self-reliant, surviving through adversity with grit and determination. But a new question loomed on the horizon. Would they rise as leaders of this fractured galaxy? Or would they be crushed under the weight of a larger power they didn't yet understand? "Estimated time to arrival, Lieutenant?" Carter asked, snapping back to the present. 6 hours, Captain," Trowbridge replied crisply. "Very well. Let's make sure we're ready. Prepare the crew for potential engagement. I don't want any surprises." The bridge fell into a rhythm as orders were quickly followed. Carter took a moment to study the star charts, noting the quiet stretch of space that lay ahead. There were no major colonies, no stellar trade routes in this section. It was a dead zone, a place few ships passed through. Perhaps that was why Atrexia had been so vulnerable to whatever was coming for it. 6 hours later, the Vanguard dropped out of hyperspace, its engines humming as the stars around them slowed to a crawl. "We're in the Atrexian system, Captain," Robert said. His fingers moved over the console with practiced ease. "The planet is right there, and we've got an anomaly just beyond its orbit." "Anomaly?" Carter asked, turning her attention to the holodasp in the center of the bridge. A large, shadowy shape was visible near the orbit of Atrexia's moon. A massive object, unlike anything in the Federation's database. Its dimensions were incomprehensible. It was neither a ship nor a station, but something between the two. "That doesn't look like any craft we've encountered," Trowbridge said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I don't think that's our enemy," Carter said, her brow furrowed. "That's something else entirely." "Should we go in closer?" Trowbridge asked. Carter hesitated. "Hold back for now. We need more information. Helm, take us into a holding pattern around the planet." The crew went to work, the ship pivoting gracefully in space, its powerful engines pushing it into orbit. Carter's eyes remained locked on the mysterious object, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a soft, high-pitched tone that came from the comms station. "It's a transmission," Robert said, already working to decipher the signal. "It's coming from the object near the moon." "Play it," Carter ordered. The transmission was encrypted, but Roberts managed to break the code. The voice that emerged was clear, almost unnervingly so. "Human warship, you are entering a restricted zone. Turn back now or you will be destroyed." The voice was cold, mechanical, but the message was unmistakable. Whoever or whatever was on the other end of the transmission wasn't interested in negotiation. Carter's lips curled into a slight smile. She had been expecting something like this. Humans were not known for backing down from threats, and the Vanguard was no exception. "Open a channel," she ordered. Roberts looked at her in surprise. "Captain, are you sure? We don't know who or what we're dealing with." "Delighted we're it. It's time to show them who we are." The bridge fell silent as the transmission was relayed. After a few moments, the voice returned. "You have been warned. This is your final warning." Carter leaned forward, her voice firm and unwavering. "I don't take kindly to threats. You don't know who you're dealing with. This is a human warship, the Vanguard. I'll say it once. Get out of our way." The bridge crew exchanged looks, some in surprise, others in quiet admiration. But Carter's expression never wavered. She knew that this was more than just a battle for survival. It was the beginning of something larger, something that would define humanity's future in this galaxy. The alien vessel made its move moments later, It fired on the Vanguard without hesitation, sending out a blast of energy that sent shockwaves through the ship's shields. The hum of the Vanguard's engines shifted into a roar as the shields absorbed the impact. "Shields holding at 75%, Trowbridge called out, her hands flying over her controls. "Return fire," Carter commanded. "Give them a taste of what humanity can do." With a flick of her hand, the ship's weapons came online. A coordinated series of plasma bursts erupted from the Vanguard, each shot precise and deadly. But the alien ship was evasive, and its strange design made it hard to target. "Direct hit," Roberts called, his voice full of surprise. "They've been hit hard, but they're still moving. Not sure if they've taken significant damage." Carter's gaze hardened. It's not over yet. Brace for more. As the Vanguard engaged the alien vessel, a stark realization began to set in. Humanity was about to find itself at the center of a war unlike anything it had ever faced before. This was no ordinary enemy. This was a force unlike anything the Federation had ever encountered. And the Vanguard was humanity's answer. The bridge of the Vanguard was a storm of activity. The hum of the ship's engines, the low growl of the artificial gravity systems adjusting, and the sharp clicks of fingers against touchscreens filled the air. Captain Amelia Carter stood at the center of it all, her sharp gaze never leaving the holographic display in front of her. The alien ship, massive and enigmatic, hung like a shadow just outside the orbit of Atrexia's moon. Every passing moment seemed to stretch into eternity. The crew worked tirelessly, each member responding to the tension in the air as if it were their lifeblood. But it wasn't fear that gripped them. It was something much stronger. They were preparing for battle, and though they didn't yet know the full extent of their adversary's power, they were confident in their own. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Trowbridge's voice cut through the ambient noise, steady as always. The tactical officer's fingers danced over her control panel, calling up data streams and coordinating the ship's offensive capabilities. "The alien vessel is maintaining its position. It's not moving toward us or Atrexia, but it's also not retreating. It seems waiting for something." Carter nodded. The alien craft wasn't a threat just yet, but its silence was deafening. A game of waiting, perhaps, but they had no intention of playing by the aliens' rules. As far as Carter was concerned, the first move was always hers to make. "Time to put an end to their waiting game," she said. "Raise shields. Get me a weapons status update, Lieutenant Roberts." Roberts, the communications officer, glanced up from his console. His usual calm demeanor was now laced with an edge of intensity. "Shields are at full power, Captain. Weapons are primed and ready. We're good to go." Carter turned toward the holographic display, where the alien vessel loomed in all its foreboding glory. Its design was alien, shaped in geometric patterns and sleek contours, unlike any human ship. Its dark metallic surface absorbed the light from the distant stars, making it difficult to get a read on its true form. But Carter had seen enough to know that the ship was no mere outpost or research vessel. It was built for one purpose only: war. "Maintain current orbit, but position us at a higher angle," Carter commanded. "We don't know what they're capable of, but let's make sure we have the high ground." Trowbridge input the command, and the ship responded. Slowly, the Vanguard shifted its position, its engines rumbling as it took up a strategic vantage point that would give it a clear line of fire. The minutes dragged by. Then, without warning, the calm was shattered. A blinding flash of light erupted from the alien ship, illuminating the entire sector. The blast of energy shot through the vastness of space with terrifying speed, a spear of destructive power aimed directly at the Vanguard. Carter's reflexes were instantaneous. "Evasive maneuvers now," she barked. Trowbridge's hands were already in motion, pulling the controls with precision. The ship's engines roared to life, altering their trajectory just as the energy beam hurtled past. It grazed the Vanguard's shield, sending ripples across the force field, but the ship held strong. A lesser vessel would have been vaporized, but humanity's engineering was built to withstand such challenges. "Shields holding at 75%, Captain," Trowbridge reported, her voice tense but composed. The alien ship's barrage wasn't over. Another salvo of energy blasts followed, this time from multiple points along its hull. They were fast, unpredictable, and incredibly powerful. The crew worked in synchronized chaos as they responded with countermeasures. Anti-missile defense systems flared to life, intercepting the projectiles in mid-flight. Still, the pressure was mounting, and the Vanguard could feel the strain. "Target their weapons array!" Carter shouted. "We need to disable their firepower." The tactical officer nodded. "Firing main cannons, Captain." A volley of high-powered plasma shots erupted from the Vanguard's front turret. The blast collided with the alien ship's outer shields, the impact reverberating across the void like a thunderclap. For a brief moment, the alien ship's shields flickered, leaving it vulnerable. Carter seized the opportunity. "Fire again, full power," she commanded. This time, the Vanguard's weapons found their mark. The plasma shots tore through the alien ship's weakened shields, ripping into its hull. A plume of bright energy erupted from the point of impact, sending debris tumbling into space. But it wasn't enough to stop the ship. The alien vessel, though damaged, was far from incapacitated. It began to maneuver, fast, agile despite its massive size. "Their shields are regenerating rapidly," Trowbridge observed. "It's almost like they're anticipating every move we make." Carter cursed under her breath. This was no ordinary enemy. The alien ship wasn't just responding, it was adapting. "Lock onto their propulsion systems," she ordered. "If we can slow them down, we can finish the fight." Robert spoke up from his station. "Captain, I'm getting a strange signal from the alien vessel. It's not a transmission. It's more like a pulse, a form of communication." "Put it on screen," Carter said, her curiosity piqued. The screen shifted to reveal a strange, pulsing pattern of lights emanating from the alien ship. It was unlike any communication signal they had encountered before, abstract, nonverbal, and yet undeniably purposeful. "Anything on the translation systems?" Carter asked. Roberts furrowed his brow as he examined the data. "It's too complex to translate in real time, Captain. It's like they're communicating in an entirely different form. Maybe some kind of telepathic signal?" "Telepathic?" Trowbridge echoed incredulously. "There's a first time for everything," Carter replied, more to herself than to her crew. "We need to assume they're capable of more than we've seen. Lieutenant Roberts, try to tap into that signal. Let's see if we can learn anything." Roberts' fingers flew across the console as he initiated a deeper scan of the alien communication. His brow furrowed further and he bit his lip in concentration. "There's a response," Roberts finally said, his voice soft. "I've managed to isolate part of the message. It's not a warning, it's a directive to prepare." Carter's stomach churned. "Prepare for what?" "I'm not sure, but I don't like the implications." Before they could discuss further, the ship shook violently and the entire bridge seemed to ripple with the force of a new attack. A pulse of energy slammed into the Vanguard's shields, pushing them to their breaking point. The lights flickered and the hull groaned under the stress. "Shields at 30%, Trowbridge shouted. "We're taking heavy damage." "We need to stop this now," Carter said, her voice like ice. She knew what had to be done. "We're not backing down. Fire everything we have." As if responding to her command, the ship's weapons flared to life again. This time, the Vanguard released every ounce of firepower it had, plasma cannons, missile pods, and heavy railgun shots. all aimed directly at the alien vessel's propulsion core. The entire ship shook as the weapons discharged, and the air was thick with the hum of energy. The alien ship, now clearly on the defensive, attempted to dodge, but the attacks were relentless. It wasn't fast enough. An explosion erupted on the alien ship's starboard side, and this time the blast seemed more decisive. The ship lurched, its lights flickering violently. Another volley hit, and the alien vessel staggered. But despite the chaos, it didn't fall. "Captain, their shields are collapsing," Trowbridge shouted. "They're pulling back." The alien ship moved slowly at first, almost as if it was gathering itself. Then, without warning, it shot away at high speed, disappearing into the dark recesses of space. Carter watched the retreating form of the alien ship on the monitor, her face set in grim determination. "We've won this round," she said, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "But we're not done yet. They'll be back, and we'll be ready." She turned to face her crew, her eyes burning with the intensity of someone who had seen the face of an unknown enemy and who refused to be intimidated. "Prepare for whatever comes next," she added, her voice unwavering. "This is just the beginning. Humanity has a place in this galaxy, and we're going to make sure everyone knows it." With the alien vessel gone, for now, the Vanguard hovered in the eerie quiet of space, its crew focused but exhausted. The question still lingered: what was the true nature of the alien force they had just encountered? And more importantly, why had they come for Atrexia? The echoes of the battle still reverberated throughout the Vanguard. Captain Amelia Carter stood at the center of the command bridge, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes focused on the deep void of space beyond. The alien ship was gone, retreating into the dark, but the scars of their engagement were still fresh. The ship groaned from the damage it had sustained, and the ship's automated systems were already working overtime to stabilize and repair the worst of it. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Trowbridge, her tone measured but tinged with concern. "We've received a priority message from Fleet Command. It's encrypted, but it's marked urgent." Carter turned to face Trowbridge, her features hardening. Despite the ship's condition, the last few hours had only intensified her sense of urgency. The Federation was in disarray, and the implications of what had just happened were enormous. The Federation might have seen them as a rogue faction, but the human fleet's power was undeniable. Yet despite that, the Vanguard had just engaged a force far more dangerous than they could have imagined. "Put it through," Carter ordered. Trowbridge manipulated the controls, and a new holographic screen appeared before Carter. It displayed an emblem, a symbol of the United Earth Fleet, followed by the familiar face of Admiral Claire Hawk. "Captain Carter," Hawk began, her voice laced with tension, "we've been monitoring your engagement. The reports coming back from Atrexia are disturbing. That alien ship you encountered was not a mere reconnaissance vessel. We've identified it as a part of a larger fleet, a fleet that has now entered Federation space." Carter's stomach twisted. "What are we dealing with, Admiral?" Hawk's expression darkened. "We don't know yet. The enemy's ships don't match any known classifications, and their technology is unlike anything we've ever seen. We've dispatched a task force to the Atrexian system to secure the area and to provide assistance where needed, but I want you and the Vanguard to investigate the source of these ships. We need to know everything we can about them, and we need to do it fast." "Understood, Admiral," Carter said, her voice resolute. "We'll gather as much intel as we can, but if this is a fleet, we'll need more than just reconnaissance." Hawk's lips tightened. The Federation can't afford to engage them head-on without knowing their capabilities. Your mission is to uncover their origins and any weaknesses. If you find an opening, exploit it. But above all else, Captain, I need you to remain covert. This may be a war we aren't ready for, but we can't show weakness. We'll do what we can, Carter replied. We'll need full access to Federation databases and any intelligence they've gathered on these ships. We're going in blind otherwise. Hawk nodded. I'll make sure the data is transferred. You'll have everything we've gathered on these invaders. The transmission flickered and then the screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge for a moment, the weight of the mission settling over the crew. All right, people, Carter said, turning to her crew. We've been given a task. We'll investigate, gather intel, and get the hell out before we start a war we're not prepared for. Tactical analysis, Lieutenant? Trowbridge had already begun pulling up more data, her fingers moving rapidly over the console. The alien vessel we encountered was equipped with technology that we've never seen before. Their shields, their propulsion, everything about them defies current Federation understanding. But there are patterns we can start to analyze. Carter nodded, her eyes narrowing. Can we track their movements? Not easily, Captain, Trowbridge replied, her voice careful. Their propulsion systems operate outside of known parameters. It's unlike anything we've encountered. We'll need to rely on standard tracking methods and probe their capabilities with every system we have at our disposal. Carter sighed, her mind running through their options. There were too many unknowns, and the thought of a fleet hidden somewhere beyond the known systems made her uneasy. She glanced at the status board, which showed the progress of repairs. They still had a few hours before the Vanguard would be fully operational again. That gave them time to plan, but not much. Roberts, Carter called. The communications officer, Lieutenant Ivan Roberts, glanced up from his station, his eyes bright with determination. Yes, Captain? Get me in touch with the Atrexian authorities, Carter ordered. They've been under siege, and if they're going to survive, we need to know what they've seen. Roberts nodded. Aye, Captain, I'll put out a message. Hours passed. The crew continued working relentlessly, and the Vanguard limped slowly toward the center of the Atrexian system. Every scan, every report from their sensors brought back more questions than answers. They'd found no trace of the alien fleet, though it was evident that they'd been here not long ago. The atmosphere around Atrexia was still abuzz with the echoes of conflict. But nothing seemed to point to a clear cause. We're in position, Captain, Trowbridge reported, looking up. We've got a clear scan of Atrexia's orbit, but no sign of any additional ships. Let's try a deeper scan, Carter said, her tone firm. We need to see if there's any trace of whatever fleet we're dealing with. If they've set up any sort of base, we should be able to find it. Trowbridge nodded, focusing on her console. Beginning deeper scans now, Captain. Seconds turned into minutes, and the hum of the ship's engines seemed to fade into the background, the tension in the air palpable. The crew worked in near silence, each person aware of the gravity of the situation. They had been given an order, but the uncertainty of their next steps loomed large. Captain, Roberts said, his voice cutting through the silence. I've got something. We're picking up a faint signal in the nearby system, a transmission of some kind. It's not Federation standard, but it's not alien either. What kind of transmission? Carter asked, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. It's encrypted, Captain, but it looks like it's a message from the Atrexian government. Patch it through, Carter ordered. The screen flickered once more and a stern-faced Atrexian officer appeared, his green-tinted skin illuminated by the pale light of the nearby star. A cold shiver ran down Carter's spine. Not from this galaxy. The room was still. Carter's mind raced, the puzzle pieces clicking into place. An unknown enemy, originating from a region of space thought to be empty. Yet they had advanced far beyond what anyone had imagined. "How many ships?" Carter asked, her voice steady despite the gnawing fear growing in her gut. Carter nodded slowly. "That's a start. We'll gather more intel. Stay in touch. We'll be ready for whatever comes next." Carter turned toward her crew, the weight of their mission pressing down on her shoulders. "Get ready. We're heading into the dead zone." In the distance, a shadow lingered at the edge of space. The Vanguard was not alone in its quest. The enemy was already waiting, watching, and preparing for the next move in a war no one had expected.